So let's explain what we're doing here real quick. My name's Chris. This is Francisco. Both of us are lucky enough to live in Chicago.
Blessed.
Blessed. We've been here our whole lives. I'm in the window cleaning, commercial window cleaning business, and I get a chance to meet so many awesome people in the city.
That's right. I'm a
Cisco?
contractor, and I'm a contractor, and I get the same opportunity.
Exactly. And we've got so many of these conversations we're having all the time that are valuable, and we want to share them with everybody. So we've got the idea to do this podcast, and we're working out the kinks. This is our first episode, and we've got a very special guest here. This is my father. He's the last living survivor of the Chicago fire.
I'm still burning.
He's got some stories. He's got some stories to share with us, and we're just going to interview him, and we're going to talk about Chicago and the lore, and get some funny stuff out of him. Hopefully,
Why don't we start with your name?
I'm Dennis Maimonis, or Dad to some people.
Yeah.
Or Dan.
Dad.
Dad. Or Dad.
Or Dad.
So
Okay.
why don't you tell us?
That makes a lot more sense than Dan.
Yeah, tell us about the window cleaning business. Tell us, go back to, the beginning of, let's go back to, your father and your restaurant experience with Papuli.
I grew up basically always being in restaurants, either working in them or in one capacity or another serving them, delivering things to them. I was a bread driver for a while. My father sold soap and chemicals to restaurants, and I was always in the kitchens. I was always doing route work. And about 1978, I was delivering bread for Rosen's Bakery. I was given a bread route. It was a pretty good one in the Skokie area, and then was selling Jewish bread in a Jewish community. So
You were driving a truck?
I was driving a truck, yeah. And when the holidays hit, I was making bank as a bread driver because I'd have to have a truck follow me with all the special orders to drop off for the Jewish people because they took their
bread, kosher.
Right. Well, anyway, by '79, back then making $600-700 a week was a lot of money, but I was really working for it. And the blizzard of '79 hit. And
I remember that one.
Yeah. It was an incredibly brutal winter.
It was a famous blizzard, though, wasn't it?
It really
super
was.
Famous blizzard.
Oh yeah. And the amount of time necessary to complete the route that I was doing went from 10 hours a day to 15.
Oh, jeez.
Then I had to commute back home, where I'd sleep 2-3 hours maybe, and come back. It was brutal. I couldn't maintain it, even though I was a young man.
Dad was over there. You were living in Hamlin and Wilcox?
No. That was much earlier. That's when I was a little boy.
Okay.
I was at that point in my life living out in Glen Ellen with my parents.
Oh, okay. Cool.
I was still, I was only 20 years old,
Sure.
21 years old. Let's see, it was 1980, so I was born in 56.
And that was right after you got out of
Okay.
the military, too, right?
No, I got out of the military in 76, beginning of 76.
So this is interesting.
Right.
My father is Army,
Yeah.
and then my brother is in Monterey, California right now, studying as a linguist. He already speaks English, of course, but he was in the Air Force and he learned Farsi,
Yes.
and then came back. Said he never wanted to re-enlist. Said he'd rather burn himself alive than re-enlist, and then spent a year or two playing video games, and then
Re-enlisted.
went to boot camp for the Army.
Well, it was one of the wisest moves I ever made going in the military. Mm-hmm. Because the benefits have been incredible. I mean, here I am. I spent less than 2 years in the military. I was honorably discharged because they began offering early discharges back when the Vietnam War was over, because they were underfunded. So
Oh, no
I wound
kidding.
up getting an honorable discharge after like 16 months of service. And
Because usually, what is it? It's like
year-
3
two-
years.
I was enlisted for 3
2 to
years.
6, right? Two or 6.
back then it was 2. You could enlist for 2 to 4.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
It was different because the war was going on with Vietnam.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but I got all the benefits of it from that era.
I mean,
you know,
yeah.
but I've been taking advantage of the medical, and it was a very wise move that I made to be in the military.
Yeah.
If I'd have stayed in the military, I would have had a full pension by the time I was 38 years old.
I'm sure that my brother's regretting it because the Air Force, by 40 he would have been cush.
Right.
He would have been set. And not that he won't be, in the Army, but he was, the better half of that was already done.
So you got out of there, back to the blizzard of '79. What happened?
Well, yeah, I was. I had to give up on the idea of being a bread driver, right? And I had saved a lot of money, and I thought I had time, and I was boxing down at Navy Pier Gym.
Oh, cool.
I was a sparring partner for
Yeah.
Roosevelt Green and Henry Sims, and I was being trained by a guy named George Kalimas, who was a middleweight champion back in the 40s. And I knew him from the bakery, actually from Mary Ann Bakery.
No kidding.
Yeah, he was a salesman at the time, and he was, and I asked him to train me, and he said, sure, he would, come on down. And so while I trained, I decided I needed some way to make money because I wasn't making any money boxing, and so I was, because I was an amateur, I was basically just a sparring partner, and I got an offer from one of my customers that I was delivering bread to pick up the distribution rights for a company called Springwater Cookies. These extremely big cookies that we would put in consignment in gas stations and in 7-Elevens and in Dominic's, and they would sell, a dozen for $10. And I would get a buck a dozen.
Yeah.
So
right
I
on.
was,
The guy, the other bread guy was teaching you how to do that?
No, that customer that I had they owned Myron and Phil's up in
Okay.
Lincolnwood. He had the distribution rights for the Springwater cookies, and he asked me to deliver his cookies for him. And I was really doing well.
He was slanging cookies.
I was delivering 1,200 dozen a week. I was making $1,200 a week, and then the bakery, it was owned by Pita Bread. They made all the pita bread for gyros back then in the Chicago area, and the other drivers weren't making any money. I mean, I was flying in and out between parked cars. There were snow drifts up taller than the cars. Cars were buried. It was impossible to get around.
Man.
But I had a little Datsun pickup truck, and I was getting my cookies delivered. And I was making bank. And they closed down the bakery.
What were you doing with all that money in the first place?
I was stacking it. I was saving it. I was trying to get someplace in my life. I was a young man. I was saving it, and I was working so much I didn't have anything to spend it on. So I wound up taking off when they closed the bakery, like 4 months, 5 months, and I wound up spending all the money that I had saved. Because I did, in that period of time, I didn't have a job, I didn't have unemployment or anything, and that's how. I talked to my godfather, and he gave me the idea to maybe go into the window cleaning business. And I really thought it was a dumb idea at first, But I was sitting in a restaurant in Lombard. It was called the Delta House. And I had $1 left. And I did the math. I had enough to pay for a grilled cheese sandwich, and I couldn't tip the waitress. I was really feeling kind of low. I'm listening to the Greek restaurant owner, talk to his partner in Greek, and he's cursing out the window cleaner.
They needed some help.
Because the window cleaner didn't show up. And he said, you think for $10 a week, the guy would be here, like a clock. And I looked, and he had like 5 windows,
Oh my
and
gosh.
2 doors.
That's beautiful.
And I said, hey,
Hey,
just so happens I can clean windows. I was in the military. I know how to clean stuff. Do you have the equipment? Because I don't have any with me. He says, yeah, we've got the squeegees and stuff because we do the doors all the time. So I went across the street. I bought some paper towels, and it took me an hour to clean those 5 windows.
Paper towels.
Yeah, well, I wiped out all the drips.
Yeah.
The fact is that when I was done, the windows looked great.
Yeah,
because
immaculate.
because I knew what clean was. That's what
You were squared away
yeah,
from
it was
the military.
From the military. So, but I didn't know how to clean windows. Not like a professional anyway.
Yeah.
But I knew that I had just made $10, and I said
And you could tip the
the
waitress.
waitress, and I said to him, I said, so how often do you do the doors? He goes, every day. I said, well, good. I'm taking the equipment with me, and I'll come every day, and I'll do the doors for you for coffee,
Yeah, no kidding.
And I went down the street, and I went to another restaurant. I told them I'm cleaning windows, And I wound up
$15 a week.
within about
Whatever.
6 weeks, I was making about $300 a week.
You had all sorts of different clientele right there in Lombard.
No, I went from restaurant to restaurant. I
I mean, you have
approached
the
it differently.
connections from the bread company too.
Yeah, no, actually, my father's soap company. I just knew how the routes were. Nobody was approaching
sure.
the window cleaning business like this. You had the guy, a window cleaner doing Lombard. You had another window cleaner doing Villa Park. They worked
You had the
locally.
logistics going.
Right. And I decided, well, I would just go after restaurants.
Yeah.
And I put routes together, just like with the bread company, just like, with the cookie company. And I had a little bit of experience with that route work. And I was, I got pretty, I still didn't know how to clean windows. I just took the squeegee and I would pull the water straight across the glass. And I'd take a smaller squeegee and pull the water down.
And then you'd have your lines, and then
And I'd wipe the drip out with
lines,
some paper
cream
towels.
on.
And it was,
Okay.
but I got fast enough where I could do that $10 account in a half an hour instead of an hour.
Yeah.
Okay? And I just kept getting more and more accounts. And then one day I was in Bensonville where I had a customer at the it was the Golden Nest restaurant. Funny story I'll tell you about this guy in a minute, but while I was there, he said, what's that? That's my name in Greek. He says, I got a guy here, he's a customer of mine, comes in all the time, he wants to tell you something. And I said, okay, sure. The guy said, look, I'm a window cleaner. I work for this other company.
You're
And-
doing it all wrong.
Yeah, you're doing it all wrong. He says,
You're doing it all.
can I show you something? I said, yeah, absolutely.
You teach
So
him
he
how to
mops
fish.
up the
He's like,
window
"Let me
and he
give you a
takes the
tool."
squeegee, he fans the glass. I didn't even know that was legal.
I've seen
You know what I mean?
I've seen videos of you do it,
Right.
and it's a really cool thing.
Right.
Like the finesse to it. The same thing. We were over
Yeah.
here. We were over here. Let me out.
It's all right.
We can. Oh yeah, that's fine. We were cleaning his windows.
Yeah.
You know, and I called Chris, and he's like, "Man, I'm done for the day." I was like, "Don't worry about it. I hit you up because I thought it was funny, you know."
I was saying before when we got here, we should have brought the window cleaning equipment so we could have gotten a video of you cleaning the windows. Here. Do you really?
Oh yeah.
We could do it. We could do it a little after this. We could do a
Yeah,
little
yeah, sure.
clean the windows here.
Well, anyway, I
So he teaches you.
he shows me how to do it, and again, now I cut my time even more. Now, instead of it taking a half an hour to do that same job, I was able to do it in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay? And I just kept going out and asking people to let me wash their windows. There were a lot of restaurants in the Chicago area.
Yeah.
Before I knew it, I was going all the way to Torrance Avenue, down by Indiana,
Yeah.
and
Cool.
to Aurora,
Yeah.
to Crystal Lake, to Waukegan,
Wow.
and everywhere in between. I'm with you.
Yeah. So Chris said that you have these suburb accounts.
Right.
You know. So you really are all over the place.
Right.
Then.
Well, I was.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Um,
Sure.
got bigger, I hired help, trained guys, you know. When I had, at first I wanted to do it all myself, just keep all the money, you know. But I got 3 tickets, you know.
Parking tickets.
No, moving violations. And I got my first suspension.
Oh, I see.
And I was
Okay.
suspended for 3 months. And I was like, oh my
Oh.
gosh, if I get caught driving,
Yeah.
I'll get in more trouble.
Yeah.
So behind my father's house was this apartment complex called Iron Gate. And I knew this young man that was living in a van in Iron Gate. Guy had long hair down to his knees.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He was 18. And he wasn't dumb. He was just, you know, homeless, basically. And he didn't have a father. And he didn't have shoes. His shoes were flip-flop when he walked. You know, so his name was George.
She needed some direction.
Well, and I needed a driver. So I asked him, hey, George, how much do you get paid to sit in your van and read all day? Nothing. I said, well, I'll give you $10 a day to sit in my van and read all day. And I'll feed you breakfast and lunch. How's that sound? All you got to do is switch seats with me if the police are pulling us over.
Oh my gosh, this is hilarious.
So he goes,
This is hilarious.
sure, you know, but you can't come into the restaurants, ever. Why? Because
You don't have
you look like
shoes.
Cousin It. You know what I mean? And your shoes go flop. You know? So my father's feet were big like George's. I asked my dad if I could get a pair of his old shoes for George, and he said sure. So I got
Cool.
George shoes, you know, and within 2 weeks, George was begging me to let him at least come into the restaurant.
He's like, what's going on in there?
I
gotta get in
I
there."
can't sit in a van like this all day. So you were doing it already. And he goes, come on, you don't have to pay me the $10. I said, no, I will pay you the $10, but you got to cut your hair. I can't cut my hair. I said, no, I don't expect you to cut it. We'll have a barber cut it. He goes, oh, come on, Timmy. It took me so long to grow it. I said, well, you can keep it, but you just can't, you know, keep it on, you know, that
It
long.
has to be disattached from your head.
Well, he went and he got a haircut from his knees to his waist. Cut this much of his hair off. You know what I mean?
But what did see back then is a lot different than right now having long hair like
Yeah.
that, I'm sure.
Well, it's still, he couldn't come into restaurants dressed like, or with the hair like that. None of the Greek. So what I told him he had to do is put it in a ponytail, and put it down his shirt, you know, and wear it like that. So that's what he did, you know. And I let him scrub the windows for me, you know. I would squeeze him, he would scrub. And he actually started with me before I was doing the fanning. He started with me while I was still pulling it like this. But that also, you know, cut my time down. I didn't have that. The windows were wet when I got to them. So, get done even faster. And suddenly I was making like $800 a week, giving George 50 of it, you know, and feeding him. And
That's America.
right. He goes, what do I have to do for you to teach me how to wash windows? He goes, oh, you have to cut your hair. You know, he goes, I did. I said, no. That's how much you had to cut it to be able to scrub. But the squeegee, you have to cut it even more. So George decided, okay. And he cut it from his waist up to his shoulders.
He didn't want to let go of it.
I said, great, now you can't tuck it in. You know? I said, no, it looks worse than it did when it was longer.
Oh,
And
gosh.
so, but a deal's a deal, you know. And I taught George how to do the washing of the windows, and we worked together for about a year and a half, you know. And in that year and a half, I met my wife. I got married.
Well, you got to tell that story too. I feel like that's a.
Oh well, yeah,
A window cleaning
I go
story.
into that. You know, I was on the George part, but you know I was, one of my accounts was TGI Fridays. I had
Okay.
3 TGI Fridays. I had
Wow.
4 Bennigans.
Wow.
You know, I had picked up some.
Yeah.
These were primary accounts back then. These theme restaurants were just coming
You knew
up.
the ones to
Was
go
it on, like,
for.
the first
that-
TGI Fridays, or was it the?
The first 2 TGI
One of the
Fridays in the
first one?
Chicago area.
Yeah.
Schaumburg was the first one. That's where your mother was working.
Ah.
And Lombard, you
Yeah.
know. And,
You hit the chains. You
Yeah.
you knew where the money was at.
well, I got some chains and I got some, you know, and I had a lot of Greek restaurants.
But it's easy because you're already locked in with those owners or those contracts. You
Well,
know.
now I was getting a reputation, you know, and people, I looked like I knew what I was doing, and I met everybody. I went and I made friends with these people, you know. I could speak Greek, you know, and
Nobody knew that you didn't have any money to pay the waitress.
in the first, I had money to pay the waitress now,
Yeah, bags full of it.
you know. My
Man.
I got to the point where I would not let George go out by himself. I was worried, you know, that I had to
Yeah.
constantly have my
Trust.
eye on. He was honest. That wasn't the point, but he was just very, you know, not responsible. He was
You gotta
young.
keep an eye on
You
him.
know, I wanted to keep an eye on him. But I got that flu back when the swine flu was around. I think it was 82 or no, it was 80. It was
It must have
1980.
been 80.
Yeah, it was like, and George was, I couldn't get out of bed. I was hurting so bad. I never had a flu like that where my joints ached, and I couldn't even get out of bed. That was before I married your mother, as a matter of fact. You know,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It must
and
have been.
that's
80.
when I let George go out by himself because otherwise I couldn't get the work done.
Yeah.
And he did all right.
Yeah.
So we split it into 2 routes, you know, and I would do, and most everything was once a week back then because it was way before the smoking banned. And it was more important to get the insides done than the outsides because there was nicotine stains everywhere.
Oh
It was
my
like-
gosh. Yeah.
Had to change the water after every restaurant. You couldn't do 2 restaurants with the same water because it was so, it would be sticky and icky. And it was,
I remember
Wow,
that nicotine was so
yeah.
bad.
Wow.
it was horrible. But
Jeez.
I would do, let's say, I had 2 routes, Route 1, Route 2. I would do Route 1 on week 1. Week 2, I would do Route 2. And George and I would alternate. That way I saw my customers every other week.
Perpetual.
And I could say, how'd he do? Well, he was doing all right. You know what I mean? And
cool.
I kept in
Yeah.
contact with
Yeah.
and it just grew from there. And it grew and grew. By 1984, I was also cleaning carpets, and I was doing a couple $1,000s a week window cleaning.
Wow.
You know,
Wow.
and I had
What did you rent a machine to clean the carpets or
no, I actually bought a
hands and
big truck
knees?
mount.
Oh, you bought it. Oh,
Yeah, it was
okay,
like
okay.
in a van.
Oh, okay.
so-
Yeah, I had it mounted in a big, you know, an old mail truck.
Yeah. You had those big fat bags full of money in there.
I had all
looking
the
at
snuggery
this,
pubs, you know, everybody had carpeting back then too. So it was
Yeah,
a
yes, it's
great
true.
accompanying, you know, business. I picked up. There was a company called Ponderosa. I don't know if you remember that.
I'm gonna lower
Yeah, I
this.
do
That way it's
remember
not so-
Ponderosa.
Yeah, Ponderosa was steakhouse, and it was the precursor to the buffets, where you could go up and get salad bar and stuff at the buffet and fill your plate up as much as you wanted.
Sure.
And they were filthy. These carpets in the Ponderosas were filthy. I wound up getting
Oh yeah, I remember going like buffets. They always had carpet.
Old country buffets. We did
They
those
always
too.
had
Well,
carpet.
the carpets would get dirty.
Whose idea in a restaurant?
And I figured out how to clean it better than anybody. You know, I really did. You know, and still to this day, the
Wow.
restaurants that have carpet are filthy because I'm not cleaning them anymore. That's
Yeah.
the truth.
Yeah, there you go.
But anyway, I had 3 districts of Ponderosas, and I was getting $125 a restaurant, and then on the in between, you know, and then 2 weeks later I would come and I would do just the aisles for $75. You know, and
Okay.
And then, so I had this
Yeah.
route, this thing going at night with the carpets.
Yeah.
I had all the other restaurants scheduled in between them. And
Wow.
I was making bank with both businesses
Now you're back to working
Right.
every day, 15 hours a day.
Right. And I was really, I felt successful, you know.
Yeah, good for you.
And
Right.
I had this guy working for me that I grew up with. His name was Bruno. Lived out in Lombard with me. And he was very organized. He did a real good job. He's a hard worker. And so I sent him to do the carpets at night. It was really just a 4-hour job a night, but I was giving him a commission, and he was making good money working for me, you know, and I was making good money on my end.
Yeah.
But he took this friend with him
Oh boy, here we
when
go.
he shouldn't have had anybody with him at all.
Yeah.
And while Bruno was doing the carpets, the friend broke into the meat locker, stole a case of meat from Ponderosa.
Man, like, see,
That's what
if I had
happens.
that opportunity, I'd bring my girlfriend and have sex on top of the table. He brings somebody that comes in and wants to steal some meat.
Steals a case of meat. Okay. Well,
must have been
I get a
fucking
call
hungry.
the next morning from Ponderosa. Your guy stole. I said, no, you gotta be kidding. Bruno would never do that, you know. Well, I'm telling you, a case of meat is missing.
Walked out with a
You
whole
know?
cow on his shoulder.
I'm like, oh. So back then I was an incredibly intimidating man. You know, I was.
You still are. Let's be
I was
honest.
brutal back then. And Bruno knew it.
Sure.
Bruno left town.
Oh my God.
Bruno disappeared because Bruno was so afraid I was going to kill him that he was gone. He was literally gone. No one could find him. You know, he left town. I went to his house looking for him. His stuff was all gone. His car was gone.
So
And
you
he
took
had
care
moved.
of him.
You know,
That's the story that you tell, but Bruno disappeared.
he didn't disappear because I made him disappear. But
Bruno's alive, everybody.
But I lost
Bruno's alive.
that biggest account I had.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And the
and a good worker.
And the carpet cleaning went from, you know, being highly profitable because of this pilot account I had to being devastated.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the window cleaners that were working for me, I had four routes at that point. Two of the guys working for me said, "Oh, well, he's vulnerable now. You know,
Oh.
if you don't get us a raise, we're going to walk on you." And I said, "You're going to do that to me now?" And he goes, "It's business." I said, "Oh, well, can I think about it today? You know, and I'll let you know tomorrow." And when I put a pencil to it, you know, and I realized that I could reschedule the window cleaning, go back on a route myself, you know, give up one area out in Elgin,
Make him feel good.
right?
Uh,
Just let those window counts go. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Just stop cleaning the carpets. In fact, I had a guy that wanted to buy the carpet cleaner from me.
okay.
You know, he would pay for the machine and give me, you know, half the money for a year of whatever accounts I gave him. Okay?
Beautiful.
So I called him up and he said he would do it. Okay? His name was John Seacos. He owned Carpet Performers, installing carpets.
Okay.
And all of his customers, you know, all these customers that wanted him to clean their carpets too.
Yeah.
So the next day, these
Wow.
guys showed
No
up to
kidding.
work.
Oh my gosh.
And I told them to go pound salt. You know,
Yeah.
I don't need you anymore.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
what? Oh, well, but I need this job. I said, no, you don't. You know what I mean? You were going to hold me ransom. Now you can get out of here. You know, I'm going to do it myself. And I realized that I could make almost, boy, I had about $1,800 a week worth of windows that I could do by myself. I didn't need anybody at all, you know, except for George. You know, George and I would go out together like we had done. And we did it in one route, just big routes.
This is really cool, if I may.
Yeah.
So in so many aspects that you just told me about, and this is why Chris wanted me to talk to you, and I love it because it connects in so many ways with my life.
Yeah.
My father is my grandfather was a contractor and carpenter.
Uh-huh.
You know, he was walking roofs well into his 60s, and then so my grandfather had 10 children. He had he wanted a son to work on the ranch, and he got 6 daughters before he got a son.
So you got son-in-laws later. That's
Son-in-laws later, I like that. You know, and so the first one that popped out was my dad. And so my grandfather's name is Francisco. My father's name is Francisco. My name is Francisco. I'm the third.
Wow.
But he's a contractor, you know, and I've seen him so many times, time after time after time, you know. It's like, fuck you guys. I'll do the whole fucking thing by myself. You think I won't? I'll go do the whole thing by myself. Right. I don't need you guys. I don't need you guys. And then, and he would. And he would take these jobs and get it done, you know. Seriously, put some intent into it.
Because he was vested.
Yeah.
It was important to him. He fed his family with it, you know. And he also cared about his business, you know, and his reputation.
Yeah.
You know.
Having integrity with that, you know, you're not going to let anybody that thinks that they can, you know.
Muscle you.
Yeah, no way. And this is great too, because like so with my father contracting, where that's brought us is we've built a ton of restaurants in Chicago. He started with building homes.
Give me a couple names.
Things like that. So we've built every Paisano's in the city.
Oh, okay.
There's Rudy Malnati, half brother to Lou Malnati. All the Paisanos. Even the ones that are statewide. Now there's one in what is it? Wisconsin. But Tavern on Rush, Boss Bar. We've done, Fat Baby Taco when it was right next to Boss Bar. Volare. We've had accounts with. And so he met a lot of these owners and got good with them, and whenever they just go build a restaurant. So like for him, some of the bigger ones that he would do, he was building. He built the back room. He built the Joint, and what was it? The Crazy Horse or something like that. It was a strip club back in the day. And
Is that the one that was on Orleans?
Yeah.
Didn't you do the windows in that one?
Yeah, when you were a little boy.
When I was a little kid, yeah. I wasn't allowed to go in because he's cleaning the windows on stage and there's strippers going.
My dad would be working, and these girls are walking around naked in front of him, and he's like, "Oh,
The thing was, they could be naked because they weren't serving alcohol there. You know.
Oh, and there you go.
You know, so the girls were just,
Yeah.
you know, stark naked, you know, and I had to go in there and clean the windows, clean the mirrors, and you know, and while I'm cleaning the mirrors,
You're
they're doing
cleaning
stuff
them
like
real well. These are the best windows he's ever cleaned in his life.
getting paid to do this, you know.
Oh my gosh. No, but and so that's incredible because it goes hand in hand. He saw, you know, places where, you know, people that these guys walked around like Palumbo, when he worked with Palumbo. Palumbo would walk into the restaurant and just boom, $100 for you, boom, $100, you know, just hand them out like they were candy.
The earth moved with that guy.
Yeah, and, you know, everybody was, you know, they do him favors, and he was the guy, you know,
Yeah.
and my dad was his guy because, so like my dad to mostly Italians that he worked with, he was the Mexican, you know, and some of the Italians they had a problem with that. I'll never forget, you know, my dad told me the story. There was a time, I mean, he's like, Palumbo asked my dad to pull his Bentley around. He's like, pull the car up for me. And one of the other guys was like, hey, you gonna give this fucking spick the keys to your Bentley? He's like, that's the only spick that can drive my Bentley. And he protected him in that way because like he knew it was like my dad made him money hand over foot. He would build him, you know, whatever you can dream, he'll build it, you know.
He had respect for your father.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And he had earned it well and good because not only would he built these places, but he built relationships with these people. We always say we're in it to build relationships. We're not in it to make money, you know.
It'll come.
And those relationships, when you nurture them, I mean, they've come on to me, you know. Some of the, like, I've met amazing. The director of events downtown Chicago was Rudy Malnati. You know, he owned the rights to the Air and Water Show. When we were building Paisanos, he would have the jets come into a flyby right over the restaurant.
Beautiful.
You know, and you know, like he knew the guys that were making moves. They had movement in Chicago. You wanted to get an event cleared in Chicago, you had to go through him.
There's another thing, like when it goes back to the beginnings of people like Colombo or whatever, their friends who were with them before they had success are their real friends. You know, now like I know so many of these people where I started doing their windows when they only had one place, and now they have 20 places.
Wow.
And everybody wants something from them, you know. And you're still coming there and you're just doing their windows, the same relationship the whole time, still treating them the same way, you know. And they trust you because, you know.
You were good to them when you were
Yeah.
they were nobody.
Exactly.
My
Like,
dad would have the keys to all these guys' houses, $1 million, $3 million, $10 million houses. He'd have the keys to all of them. You know, they trusted him. You know.
I got
a funny story about that too. Go ahead.
I want you to tell the story of Scott Gilbert and the
And the potatoes.
the potato sack.
Okay. Now, Scott
That's a
Gilbert,
good one.
Scott Gilbert was a disturbed young man. He had suffered a lot of abuse from his father, and he was homeless when I met him. And I was always trying to help out, you know. So I offered Scott a job, told him I would teach him how to clean windows, and he could, you know. But he had these personality disorders, you know, that where he would get you so mad because he was such an asshole, you know what I mean? That you would want to beat his brains
He
out.
couldn't control himself.
Right. So I had a restaurant in Niles called the Omega, you know, and they had a big atrium there. And there was I would, back then, I was doing it with window cleaning ladders that would snap together. I would put 3 ladders together, and they would go on an angle like this, because I would lay them on the atrium, and I would go up the ladders.
Oh my gosh.
And when I got past the top of the ladder, if somebody wasn't holding the ladder at the bottom, the ladder would just go like this. Well, Scott thought that if, you know, I was fighting with him all day long. I told him, this is going to be the last time I take you with me if you keep acting like this. He goes, oh yeah? Well, you got to pay me more money if you expect me to even finish today. I said, what are you talking about? He said, I know you need me to hold that ladder for you. You know?
He had you by the
You know, I don't
balls.
hold that ladder for you. You're not going to be able to do the windows, and you won't get your money, and they'll be mad at you.
Oh.
I said, really?
Were you while you were on the ladder?
No, I was on. No, when I was setting up, I said,
Oh, okay, okay.
fine, you're fired. You know. So he goes, good, we'll see. You know.
Of
I went in the
course,
kitchen,
again.
and they had the bags of salt, 100-pound bags of salts that they used to put in the
his
salt
brain.
there. I brought the 100-pound bag of salt down, and I set it on the bottom of the ladder, and I started washing the windows with the salt on the bottom of the ladder didn't slip. And as I did the work, I'm talking to the bag of salt. Hey, you're a lot easier to get along with than the last guy. and you're smarter. You're smarter than him, too. He's stupid.
Gosh.
He doesn't even have a ride home, you know? And I got to, and I don't have to pay you anything. Oh my gosh. You know, you're hired.
Give the
You're
bag of
hired.
salt
I'm
a
gonna
raise.
I'm going to get, and I told the bag of salt, and as a matter of fact, you know what? I want you to stay here, and I'll bring you out next time I do the windows, and you can do this again. All right?
Beautiful.
And I'll even buy you breakfast if you want. And I put the bag of salt away.
Now who's the crazy one talking to a bag of salt?
And he's standing there.
This is something that Goggins would say this. I've read books and studied this guy a lot. Goggins would say this is a moment when you take a person's soul.
Yeah.
You know, when they thought that yeah. And then you use your brains and you think of something that they didn't think of, you know, and all of a sudden they're obsolete and they got this look on their face like, I'm obsolete, aren't I? And I'm totally wrong.
Right. I didn't need him. I was doing him a favor, giving him work, trying to help him,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
And he was going to try to turn the tables on me and, you know, and hurt me in this way, you know what I mean? And so I got done. And I put the salt away, and I put the ladders in, collected, and I'm getting in the truck to leave. And he comes running up the windows. He goes, "Hey!" I said, "What?" He says, "How am I going to get home?" I said, "I don't know. You know, I'm going to use my truck. I don't know. You know." He goes, "Well,
It's exactly what my dad
can't you
would
give
say.
me a ride?" He goes, I said, "Well, it's a long trip." I said, "Do you got any money?" And he goes, "I only have the money you paid me." I said, "Well, that's exactly how much I want to give you a ride
Did you
home."
do any work today?
You know,
Did you earn any money?
I said, "Don't." I said, "And you don't even have a job. You can't afford that. You better start walking. It's only 20 miles, you know, back to Lombard." So Scott started to cry, you know.
Oh,
I said, "Wait a minute, you know.
what a boss.
Big boys don't cry. You were
You're
gonna hold my
crying in
hands up."
baseball?
I said, "The bag of salt doesn't cry." You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh.
So I gave Scott a ride home.
You should have cut the bag of salt, though. You should have put the bag of salt in the seed next to you.
That would have been great. I gave him a ride home, and I told him he couldn't work anymore. You know, but he begged me and he begged me because no one else would hire him. There's no way. There's a lady peeking in the windows here.
Oh, there. Yeah, she's with us.
Oh,
Yeah, she's with us.
oh.
Well, we can do a quick pause if that's okay. I gotta refill the.
Let's do that.
All right.
Whole question.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm saying that there's a few other side characters that need to be introduced into the story, and Craig is one that stands out to me, you know, from my childhood. So, can you tell kind of the origin stories of what happened with him
Sure.
and
Absolutely.
how that whole chapter unfolded?
Craig was a young man that I met cleaning windows in Des Plaines. Interesting background is his grandmother owned Tui Hardware, and your mother's father worked for her.
Tui Hardware.
Yeah.
Nice.
And Craig knew the whole family, you know, but I had no idea that they had any affiliation whatsoever. They didn't like him, but that's a side story that we don't have to go into. But Craig worked for me for years, and he had his issues. We won't go into what his personal life was like, but he was tall. He was about 6 inches taller than me, and he was 12 years younger than me. And he was fast at window cleaning. Once I had taught him how to clean windows, he was fast at it, and he thought nobody could beat him. And he thought, and you know, he beat all the guys that were working for me and speed contests with the window cleaning, and he was calling himself the fastest window cleaner in the world. And I didn't like that, you know, because I knew that I was faster. I had an account downtown called Crate and Barrel, and it was basically a block long store that had windows that were too tall to reach my hand, and they were big plates, and there were like 20 of them. And it was Christmas in the late 80s, and Craig was bragging about how fast he was, and what he didn't know is that I had learned something that I didn't teach him. And we'll give you a little reenactment of it if you don't mind on the windows. Chris and I will show you exactly what I'm talking about. But Craig made a big, loud, bragging to the whole crowd was there, gathered around us. He actually got a crowd of people, and wanted to bet money. And I said, Craig, I don't want to take your money. He goes, oh, don't worry. You're not going to take my money. I said, no, it's going to be my money, and I'm going to take it. And there was this guy who was working as the Salvation Army guy that had the bell. The guy ringing the bell for Salvation Army. And he's, I'll hold the money. And I said, okay, I'll keep an eye on you. When he's doing it, he'll keep an eye on you. When I'm doing, how much money you got on you, Craig? Well, Craig had $300 on him. I said, come on, you want to go for the whole 300? He goes, yeah, I need the money. I said, Craig, you're going to lose the money. He goes, no, I'm not. You know it. So I said, okay. And before we got started, I said, hey, you also have a paycheck for another $300 coming. You want to spice this up a little bit? And he goes, oh, yeah, of course I do. Dennis, I don't know why you're trying to give me all this money. I don't know what you're up to. I said, yeah, that's what it is. I'm trying to give you money. So Salvation Army guy held the $300, and we let Craig go first. And in order for you guys to get an idea of how things went, why don't you can you turn this around and let Chris and I work on the windows, and can you film that? And I can show you what we did. Okay, come on, Chris, let's come on.
You guys want to do that right now?
You're Craig.
I mean,
yes.
sure.
Do you want to finish the story and then maybe do it?
No, because it'd be better for you to see it, and then we'll finish the story.
Sure.
Okay?
I'm going to cut this,
Now-
and then we can do that.
Just before you do, Chris is going to be Craig, and I'm going to be the young me.
Oh, this is
Okay?
going to be the hardest thing I've
All right.
ever done.
Come on,
I
Craig.
don't know if I can do this.
Let's go, Craig. Down to here. Okay?
I'm gonna go
All right.
the scaffold.
And then squeege him as fast as you can. Pull him down, pull him down. Then scrub him by hand as fast as you can. And then squeegee the bottoms. Okay, ready?
Hold
No,
on,
do the
hold
tops.
on,
Don't do the
hold
tops.
on. I gotta get the timer up.
We're just going to do the bottom two. Okay? Now, okay, Craig.
Okay, here we go.
Show me how
Go,
fast you are, Craig.
Get it.
He done up and down, Chris. He went up and down. Okay. Okay. All right. Now scrum all up real fast. Okay. Okay. All right. That was Craig.
Well done, Craig.
Okay.
25 seconds.
That was Craig. It's me.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
That's 15 seconds.
Wow.
Now,
Very well done.
Craig was sitting there like this, looking at me. The crowd erupts. The guy that was holding the money is like, oh, that was cold, man. That was cold. And Craig says, why didn't you ever teach me how to do that? And I said, I just did. Now you're the fastest window cleaner in the world. I said, and I took the money.
for that
And
lesson, huh?
he had to pay for that lesson. I said, why should
You
he?
guys have no idea how hard it was for me to lose that battle.
Oh, man.
It was
Here
close.
we go.
Oh, yes.
Here we go. Oh, yeah. Look at him. Dually. Around the handbar.
Well,
Wow. Wow. Like 5 seconds?
now the one thing, son,
Wow.
you may be faster than me now, but you always are going to have had a better teacher, than I did.
Yeah, right? Right? You know
Plus, when
what?
you think about it,
I taught
you know,
myself. He,
when you think about it, that first guy who taught you how to do that, like these are the things in the world that really are like ripple effects that change the world. Okay,
That's what we're talking
Right.
about.
that's what I'm talking about. Like that one guy from that one restaurant, just being there at that one time. That was 40 years ago, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then now I'm doing this like this.
Yeah.
And that's why I want to show people about window cleaning
Yeah.
and stuff, because I want them to know how to do it.
And
too,
see, what that does in turn is help businesses move and operate at maximum. Now they're getting the work that they need to get done, and they can operate as efficiently as they should be able to, because the people that they're relying on to do the work are doing it more efficiently.
well, the majority of people do it like we used to do it, like Craig did it. Okay, still today. Okay, but I figured out how to do it like this, and now I can do this. We can do this fast enough where we can do it cheaper, make more money an hour.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get more work done in the same amount of time,
Now
and still give a
Chicago
better
moves
value.
faster.
Right.
Now Chicago moves faster.
Let's go back inside, and you can tell the story about the airport down in. So, I think we want you to finish that story like right from the middle. So you've got the guy with stopwatch watching you. What happens?
Well, like I said, Craig thought that he was going to just take my money, and there was no way possible on earth that I was going to be able to do this faster than him now, because he was doing this every day, and I was barely cleaning windows anymore. But I had developed this double-handed style, and I had learned how to scrub with my left hand, mop the windows with one hand, and follow with my right hand, and do it more efficiently, like you saw.
That's a moment that you'd see like in a newspaper.
Yeah.
That would have been cool if there was media there.
And somebody had seen it.
You'd be front page of the newspaper.
It's the kind of stuff you want to see, honestly. When I go down to
It
State
was a
Street,
moment.
I don't see anything like that anymore. It doesn't look like that.
Well, I'm telling you, there was a crowd of people, and when they saw me start double-handing it, and finishing the work, and I knocked like 15 seconds off of his time, and I kept stopping. And exaggerating.
I was counting, me speeding up the way that I started counting really fast, and you still beat it.
Well, that's because I cut out so many steps, it just, and it's the same thing to the window. The window doesn't care how you clean it. And the people that are paying it don't care how long it takes you to clean it. Just, they're paying for a finished product.
So how about the story with the airport down in Dominican Republic?
All right, I was going down to different islands in the Caribbean back in the 90s. I was thinking of moving my family down to maybe the Bahamas, and I had made a lot of money, and I went to the Dominican Republic.
Did you have kids at that time?
Pardon me? Oh yeah, my kids were all still small, but Chris was in his early teens, I think. But I had gone down there. I wanted to buy a boat, and I was going to, sell my window cleaning business, and I was going to try getting into something new. And when I went to the Dominican Republic, and it wasn't the place I would move my family to, but I was going. I wanted to check out all the islands, And when I went to the Dominican Republic, I was first really astonished with the poverty and with the way the people lived down there. They were all crowded together on this island, but they were all happy. They were all happy.
You started putting
They
in
all
work.
ate. Nobody there was hungry. They all had, the ocean gave them food. You know what I mean?
The
They
land, there's fruit on the trees.
Exactly. And when I was finished with the vacation, I was getting ready to come home. I was at the airport, and they had like 30 window cleaners around washing the windows. Okay? And I'm watching this one guy wash the windows. I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, they don't know what they're doing at all. I said to the guy, I said, can I show you something? Like, I remembered the guy in Bensonville showing me something. I'm going to do the same thing. So I took him aside and I showed him how I took his tools apart and I scrubbed and I squeegeed and I did the window. He goes, oh my God, he says, that was so fast. He goes,
You're all fired.
can you show me? Can you show my boss? I said, sure. So 10 minutes later, there were 30 window cleaners watching me clean windows. His boss was there, and it turned out that this guy was one of the foremen. Okay? And so I showed him how to do the windows, and he asked me to show his guys, and I showed different guys, and I had like 2 hours for the
Was
flight.
your brain going,
You know,
cha-ching, cha-ching,
I'm thinking,
cha-ching?
I'm helping, right? And the boss looks at these guys and he goes, okay, you, and you. Takes like 8 of them. He goes, go home. You know, I don't need you. You know what I mean? You can stay. You know what I mean? And you work with him, you work with him. And if you don't get better, you're going to. You know what I mean? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm an asshole. I'm such an asshole. All these guys lost their job because I intervened. You know what I mean? But, you know.
I think that you taught them something that they could then go take somewhere else. You know, if they were really smart, you know, if
I thought
they
I was going
had
to get
no sense
assassinated
about
before I
them.
left the airport.
They're looking at you like, are you
Gringo!
serious, bro?
You American
We had it
meddler.
so sweet over here.
You know.
I was just scrubbing. Oh, that's it. 8 hours a day. I mean, it doesn't matter if the windows get clean.
No, I came home and I felt so depressed that, you know, I had done that and that these guys lost their jobs. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You know,
I would see that so much differently. I would see, you know, maybe they got fired, but
they needed
you
money.
gave them something.
Maybe, but not that day. That day I gave them a day off. You know what I mean? It wasn't like they had the opportunities here to,
You know what? It's not like he didn't keep some of them on.
Yeah, he did.
You know, the other ones were just too slow. Had they been a little faster.
There was 1 or 2 guys that really got it right away, and they were like, you know, and the others were like struggling with it, but most of them were like, they didn't know. They were all clumsy, and they didn't have any idea about working, let alone working fast,
Right.
you know, and efficiently, or what the boss was
In a
looking-
workmanship-like manner.
They didn't have, you know, they were from the islands. They were, you know, their whole life it was like slow, you know.
Sloppy, messy, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, it's just laid back out there. You know?
Yeah.
Island time.
Sure. Not Chicago time. That's a real different pace. Tell you what.
The first time I came to Chicago, the account that brought me down to Division Street was the Snuggery Pub. You ever heard of the Snuggery?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Well, the Snuggery on Division.
Cool.
They had the guy I had tried to get his accounts in the suburbs, you know, and he had this place opening up on Division Street, and he asked me he said if I can do those windows and give him a good price, that he'd give me all of his stores. So I went down there and I looked at it. It had to be done with a 40-foot ladder. I had to move this ladder like 15 times. Go up the ladder, clean 4 windows, move it. Clean 4 windows, move it. Leaning off the right side of the ladder. I had to scrub them on the way up, squeegee them on the way down.
That's where Hopsmith is right now. By
That's
the way.
it? Yeah. Well, at first I was using this 40-foot ladder. And I went around, I got this new account. It didn't hurt anybody, but I picked up the BBC, I picked up Harry's Cafe, Arnie's Cafe, Monday's Restaurant, a Kentucky Fried Chicken, and a place called the Elm Street Cafe. And they're all in a week. I picked up all these restaurants. okay? And I gave them really good prices compared to what they were getting charged
This
before I
was
got
right
there.
after you got back from the Bahamas.
No. This was in the beginning when I
before.
first got
Okay.
downtown. This was
Okay, got
way
it.
in the early days.
Got it.
Backing up now, back to before I knew Craig or before I could double hand the windows. You know, I was like 26 years old. And I could move that ladder. I could work it by myself. And I'm at the top of this ladder one day, and I'm just working. And all of a sudden, there's 3 guys at the bottom of the ladder. And one guy was enormous. He was I'd say he was about 220, you know. And he's screaming at me to come down. And I said, just hang on, I'll be down in a second. I got wet windows here. We'll talk in a second. I don't know who you are. You know, we're the union. I said,
Oh boy.
the union? What?
Oh, my God.
I'll be right down and we'll talk. Well, I started to reach out to squeegee the glass that I had wet, and all of a sudden the ladder's shaking. He took the ladder and was shaking him. I just,
Fucking kidding?
you come down now! And I took the scrubber and I dropped it. I dropped the squeegee. I said, okay, you mean now, huh?
Well, he's playing with your life.
I slid down that ladder like it was a fireman's pole. I straddled the edges with my feet, and I slid down this ladder, and I landed smack on the ground, and I stood up in his face, and I caught him off balance, and I ran him across the alley, and there were garbage cans that they had the posts sticking out of the side of the garbage cans, okay,
Yeah.
that the truck picked
Yeah.
them up by,
Right.
and I ran his ribs into one of those posts, and you heard his ribs break, snap, you know.
Just
And
like
then-
when this guy hugged me the other day.
Then I stepped back and I threw him down. I threw him down on his face, and this was the big guy.
Yeah.
And I turned around to the other guys, and I said, "You guys want to talk too?" You know. And I started walking towards them, and these 2 guys ran into one another trying to get away. They ran down the alley, and they left this guy there. And I'm screaming at him, "Hey, you left your friend here!" You know. And I turned around. I said, "That's the union you want me to join?" You know, these guys left here, and I backed up and I kicked them in the head.
Well done.
And I kicked them one. You
Well
know.
done.
In the meantime, this guy, he was really hurt. Well, they came out from the restaurant. The security that was working at the bar, and one of the managers, somebody had seen what had happened outside, and they came out and they grabbed me, they held me back. I'm like, "Hey man, let me go. This guy shook my ladder and tried to make me fall off. We know, we saw it, you know. We know what they did, but you know," I said, "he started it." I said, "We know, but you finished it a long time ago. What are you going to do, kill the guy? You know, let it go now." So I did, you know. They got out of there, and then I rigged the building so that I had a cable going across the top in the back that I could run, that I could hook a rope to.
That'll never happen again.
You know, and I could run it between the top 2 rungs of the ladder and tie it off at the bottom, okay, in case they drove by and hit the ladder, you know. And I started packing.
Smart.
I actually started packing, thinking, "Oh, what if they come back?" You know what I mean? I need this work. I'm not going to let them intimidate me. And this is Chicago. I mean, this was.
There's enough
this is,
hazards
you know,
to that job as
Right.
it is, like wet on top of a 40-foot ladder.
To get shaken like
but
that.
now you want to put a gun in your back pocket and then play games.
I wasn't.
The off chance that some gorilla might come and shake your ladder.
or knock me up or grab me when I got down. I was, you know.
Well, no, because somebody coming by and just bumps their foot, whatever,
Right.
you know.
I was afraid, you know. I was afraid because of what I had done, you know, and because I never saw these guys again. I never saw one of them again, you
Well, I
know.
got a feeling the
It turned
guys-
out that they were in the high-rise union, and what they had done is they had decided among themselves what streets they were each going to work on, and since they had an agreement with one another, they thought, well, I'd have to abide by it because they were in the union. And it had
Trying to
nothing to
bully
do.
you.
They had nothing to do with the union. They just tried to intimidate me, and you know, I didn't like it. You know, and back then, like
I got a
told you,
feeling
was-
those guys from Snuggery were pretty gangster though too. They probably said something.
Oh yeah,
This
well,
is cool.
Fred Hoffman or like those guys probably
I was
said something.
I was famous in those bars after that. Everybody, you know, I was the gangster window cleaner. I was the, you know,
They must have
they
took
loved
care
me.
of you.
You know,
No, I learned a lesson. I was throwing parties after hours, house and techno parties in Chicago. Sidebar, but
Yes.
I hired security. You know,
Uh-huh.
and there would be situations where it's like
you needed security.
I could involve myself, and then they would literally grab me and be like, "Stop, come here, just stop, don't do that. We have people for that."
Right.
And then they would come in and be like, "Do you want problems?"
Yeah.
Problem solves itself really quick. They would
Right.
they would be like, "Hey, listen, there's just 3 bad bitches and they want to talk to you. They're all outside this door, right there. We walk right through." You know. But then, like I learned that moment, and I'm sure that you got that. Maybe you got that feeling. It's like they were trying to protect you. You know.
Oh, you mean the guys from the bar?
From Snuggery,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
pulling you away.
And they didn't need the publicity. They didn't need
Sure.
anything like that. But they knew I was right, and they knew I was, just protecting myself. And I made short work of the guy. He was like, he didn't. I caught him completely off guard.
That's funny.
You know, he just.
Again, it very closely relates. There's a story with my dad. This is why one of the reasons why Palumbo loved him so much.
Yeah.
There was somebody that was giving him problems. She said, "Hey Frank, go talk to this guy." You know, he's like, "You want me to do it?" He was like, "Go handle it." You know, and it was Palumbo. It's like, what am I going to do? Say no to this guy?
Yeah.
You know, no. The guy that he was pointing out, big guy, just like you were talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, big black build. You know, probably 6'3", you know, definitely above 200. My dad has boxed all of his life. When he was in the service, he was boxing out in Germany, and then we always had a heavy bag in the basement, and then wrestling as well. Growing up, so in high school, he was my coach. And he's done a lot of wrestling, and so he knows how to hurt people, like in the right way. When you know the techniques, it doesn't take a lot of effort. And Palumbo watched my dad walk up to this guy, and this guy thought that he was gonna, squash my dad.
Yeah.
You know, and my dad ended up lat tossing him in the middle of the bar, just. Tossing this guy right to his back, and everybody goes quiet. My dad, says his piece with this guy, gets up, and walks back to the table, sits down, and
No
it was
problem.
like,
And a problem.
and from there on out, he was the guy. Don't fuck with him, listen. And they all respected my father for that, big time.
I think when you're coming down to the city for a long time and you become part of the team down here, man.
Yeah.
Like I was saying outside a few minutes ago, you are trusted before these people become super successful, and then. You're just there. You're part of the team the whole time, and they're going to take care of you as they should. Taking care of that.
It's funny where you're telling me the story about the one where you had Craig.
Yes.
No, not Craig.
Scott?
The guy, Scott, the guy that was holding the ladder for
Yeah.
you, right?
Bag of salt.
And the bag of salt, Scott, bag of salt. And it was funny. We've had a conversation in the past, and I told him a story about, with our work, we definitely use ladders all the time, and there's been situations where even with the ladder, You know, that's why they hire us, because it's like, how are you going to do that? The last guy came and brought a ladder, but his ladder didn't work. You know, he said that you can't paint it.
Do you
My
ever
dad's
work?
like, I'll get
Did you ever work with a 50-foot ladder?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
I have.
Didn't we
I
have a
have.
60-footer over there?
No, that was 50 foot, but it was
50-footer, yeah.
We
three
had,
60-foot sections.
We had. So I've worked with a 32-foot extension.
This was, I had an occasion, I was doing the windows for a theater up in Evanston. And what was the name of the theater? Do you remember the name of it?
Century Theater.
Century Theater.
Oh, no kidding! Wow.
And I wanted to get their carpet cleaning. A lot more money in carpet cleaning at a theater. We were getting $1,200 every 3 months for doing the windows, but I wanted the carpet cleaning. Carpets got cleaned once a month there. It was $1,000 for the lobbies, and it was the seats got cleaned, the curtains got cleaned, and they had like 15.
They had fabric
16
everywhere.
Yeah, they had like 16 theaters there, and the guy that managed the place kept telling me no. And one day, I was there doing the windows in the neighborhood. I wasn't doing his windows, and he comes up to me and he said, Dennis, he said, I'll make you a deal. I said, I got a light bulb out.
Ah, here we
You
go.
know? At the ceiling.
Nobody
okay?
can reach this light bulb.
Yeah, it was over the steps, okay? And it was 45 feet up
Yeah.
to the ceiling,
Yeah.
all right? The cheapest bid he got for changing
grand.
the light bulb was $6,000, okay? For them to come
They're
out,
thinking they got to bring the scaffolding.
they had to
and
set up
it
scaffolding,
and-
and he says, give me a bid on it. I said, and you're telling me you'll give me all the carpets? And then you can get me into the other Century Theaters? He says, I don't know about the other ones, but you'll definitely have this one.
See, you were smart. An average man might have said, 6,000. I'll do it for 5. Or but like there's a lot of money on the table, but you saw a contract,
Right.
and
I charged him $1,500. He goes, you can't do it for $1,500. I said, yes, I can, but you can't watch. He goes,
you have to pay more money to
I
watch.
said, what do you mean? I said, you got to look the other way. So I went and I rented the 50-foot, the 60-foot, 3 20-foot sections, but it was a 50-foot ladder.
Yeah,
And when I
yeah,
rented
yeah.
it,
Yeah.
the thing weighed 200 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay. I came there with 6 guys, my son, myself, and four other guys.
Wow.
And we tied ropes to the top of the ladder.
Okay, so
Okay.
this is great because this is where I was connecting with this story. I want to show you when we were brainstorming this.
Yeah.
I was drawing this because he was explaining to me about this exact story that you're
Right.
going to tell me, and this is what I drew. This is all the little guys right here at the bottom,
Yeah.
holding the rope.
Right, exactly.
While Dennis is up here at the top of the fucking ladder.
Actually, it wasn't him.
I sent Chris up the ladder.
Even better.
Chris was
Even
18.
better. Okay, and this is how we got into the conversation too, because there was a moment when we were building. So we had our scaffolding up on a house. It's in Lincoln Park, and we were painting the front and redoing the trim on the windows.
Yes.
At the peak of it, you're talking like 5 stories up, but then
Yes.
he had his staircase in front, and then we had the scaffolding over here, but the peak is over here.
Right, so-
And so I'd drawn this out right here, and we had our scaffolding right here, peaks over here, right? Stairs here. Nobody could figure out how to do it, and my dad had rigged up a cantilever. So what we did was take a plank,
Yeah.
put it on top of the scaffolding, strapped it to the scaffolding in 2 places, and then just like a diving board, he went out there, and he was explaining it to me.
Yes, he walked the
And
plank.
I was like,
The
Dad,
kid walked the
I was
plank.
like, yo, man,
Don't
come
do
on,
it.
dude, are you serious? And he's like, are you fucking scared? Okay, get out of the way. And
How'd you do it?
And it's funny because it's reverse. I stepped out of the way, and I was like, come on, man. He's like, get the fuck out of the way. You know, he gets up there. My old man.
Yeah.
I have a picture of him at the top of this house. You know, painting his peak, fearless, not strapped in and nothing. Like, and on this, the math worked out. You know, it's all mechanics and engineering.
Yeah.
You know, he knew what he was doing. You know, he knew that it could hold his weight. But to the average person, it's like, that's very sketch. You know.
Well, we never did anything like this before. It was the first time, but I had seen those clowns in the circus that went up.
Oh my God!
and-
So continue this story. So you got the sections of the ladder.
I had the
6
guys out and like
It was like a tent. There was 4 guys holding 4 ropes.
Right.
And they were tied off, but they were also holding the ropes.
well, one guy went this way,
Yeah.
and then one guy went that way, and that way, and that way, and those ropes were tied at the top
And then
of the ladder,
picture of the ladder is 90 degrees vertical.
straight up.
Like a teepee.
And it was set on the steps because we didn't have a flat floor.
You got a fuking circus out
And I
here,
was
man.
like,
I'm gonna change
I'm
it.
telling you, I was like, no.
What are you guys
this is
doing?
bad.
Changing a light bulb. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole theater worth of people who came out of the theater were like,
They're watching
Fuck
us
your shit.
instead of watching the.
yeah.
And this one guy said, "I'm going to call OSHA," and I said, "Go ahead. I'll be gone long before they get here." You know what I mean? And we put that ladder away, and I went in to the manager of the theater, and I said, "Okay, I'm done." He goes, "What? You're finished already?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, you fly up there?" I said, "Sorta." You know what I mean?
No, my son did.
And he said,
What was it like being at the top of that ladder, trusting all
It was
these
fucking
guys?
horrifying, all right? It was really one of the scariest fucking things I've ever done in my life. Because, okay.
"Nobody's going to let go of those ropes."
I was holding the light bulb in my teeth as I was climbing up it.
And it was lighting up.
It
You
wasn't
know?
climbing up. But I was holding it in my teeth, and I'm climbing up this thing. I'm gripping it. I'm sweating. I'm dripping. Like I'm fucking nervous. And the higher I get up, the more the ladder starts to go like on an obtuse backwards.
Yeah, but
That's
it's-
a weird
So
feeling.
when I got up there, the ladder is literally like I don't know, 10 degrees backwards.
But I told him to
and
hang
I'm
on.
reaching over my head, like, see these lights on the ceiling?
That's
It's a
what they were
very
like.
uncomfortable feeling to be on a
And
ladder
I'm
the
reaching
wrong
above
way.
me. I'm trying to unscrew that thing, I'm sweating, nervous, scared. Got it out, pulled it out of my teeth, put it in there, and then it turned out that light bulb was actually a burned out one. And I had to climb back down and climb back up again. So I did it twice.
But we got it done.
Yeah, I did it twice.
Were you guys playing a joke on him?
No. No.
Dude, I became a legend to all those guys after that, though. Like, it was like all his old friends.
There's still people there
Yeah.
working at that theater that remember.
So
There's
you
a
know
guy-
what? I was given a nickname on the job site as Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
One of the master carpenters that taught me, his name is Albert, and he would call me Tom Cruise, Mission Impossible. And it was a specific job. We were working in Park Ridge building a deck for Joe Perillo on Murphy Lake.
We did his windows.
Yeah.
Yeah. Downtown.
We did the one on Clark Street too.
We were doing the windows at Clark
Mhm,
Street.
the Maserati. We've done all of those.
Yeah.
We've worked hand in very closely. We've done a lot of work for him. Doing his lake house over there, and it was a really cool deck. It was a student of Frank Lloyd Wright who had cantilevered the deck 35 feet out above the water, you know, and the beams ran under the house. So the house was the counterweight.
They held it there.
And what they didn't think of was the deterioration on the steel. Nowadays, you'd epoxy those beams, you know, to protect them. But so, what?
And when they
what-
moved the refrigerator out of the kitchen, the whole house lifted.
wait, no. So it was pretty wild. We went out there. They're like, we got a problem over here. What are we gonna do? Because you went out to the edge of that deck.
Yeah.
And you just like not jump, but like you just did a little.
It bounced a little.
The
Yeah.
deflection was about a foot.
Yeah. Oh, really?
The whole deck was like a diving board.
So how did you fix that? You put cable on from the corner to hire?
So what we ended up doing was taking 5 feet off of
The deck.
the end of it and then adding it to the side.
Oh, okay.
So he still had the same square footage, and we still had to math out the structure. It was a double-decker deck, so there was another deck underneath. There was a fulcrum here, and then the beams
Wow.
for that deck. And so what we had to do for this job, Albert, we ended up having to build a boat, because to work under the deck, we can't just go on the ground and put ladders. We ended up building a raft
Yeah.
to get under the deck. First off. Then from this raft, I got a ladder on top of the raft, and I climb up there, and I'm hanging upside down with like a hammer and nails. And he's looking at me laughing, and I'm like, dude, I'm upside down here. What? Tom Cruise, man.
Just there was a restaurant in St. Charles
It's you, Tom Cruise.
called the Manor. Okay, it was right on the river, and he had like 6 or 7 restaurants, but this one was covered with spider webs, the one side, because nobody could clean the windows, and because straight down was water, and so I took the job, and I got hip waders, and I actually went out into the river, put the ladder in the water, and climbed up and washed the windows. Oh my God. And hey, that was $50.
My
$50.
my brain went right to thinking about these guys that climb the skyscrapers with their suction cups.
Yeah.
That's where my mind went. You were way better off, save a lot of money, get the waiter, put the ladder in the water.
I remember doing the windows out at Snuggery in Aurora, which was right across the street from the Riverboat Casino.
Also covered with bugs.
Also, yeah, it was like
spider webs.
it was like, I don't know, 30 feet up, and it was about 6 feet between there and the river. So it was like a vertical ladder going up there. You had to hold the ladder. There was no way to get off of it. The place was like a haunted house of spiders, I mean, like river spiders, like crazy ones. And you get up there, there's nothing you could do. Like, you got to hold the ladder. These spiders are crawling off of you. You've got to try and get the windows cleaned. I remember getting home and I'd still have spiders in my hair.
I'm familiar with it. I used to go to the boat in Elgin, and
Yeah.
when you go stand out on the deck and you really take a good look, just look up and like
Yes.
spiders
Like, they're fucking
everywhere
big
that you
ones.
looked.
Yeah.
When I first started the window cleaning, Michigan Avenue was covered in spiders, because there was, back in the early 80s, it was closer to the lake. There
They
was-
didn't have the
Yeah, I kind of remember that Bennigan's on Michigan, across from Art Institute.
Right.
It was covered with spiders.
Covered with spiders. I had to scrape the windows every time I did it, but I got all 4 Bennigans.
Usually nowadays, what they'll do is when they build a structure like that, they keep that in mind, and at the top they have a system where you pulley down or you suspend yourself down, and that's how you see these guys that clean the windows on the skyscrapers.
This was groundwork, supposedly, but it was, still 12 feet, 15 feet tall. You had to use poles and big plates and covered in spiders. But
We have 15 minutes of.
banana spiders.
Okay, cool.
What else? What other story do I have for him, Chris?
So playing pool left-handed.
That's not me. That's him.
Okay,
He's the pool player.
I have these things written down that he's like.
I couldn't even hit the urinal
my dad.
left-handed. I had, I mean, I'm really right-handed. That's why.
Let's see.
How about Donnell? Donnell's a good story.
Which one? What
Donnell.
what about it?
About how he came to be here by cutting off his own
Finger? Well, it wasn't working for me when he did that, but he
It was
was
before, yeah.
yeah, he refresh my memory.
He worked out in Alabama for the railroad company.
Oh yeah, and he got his finger cut off, and
I thought he cut it off on purpose. I thought that was the
no,
story.
but the
The guy cut his fingers off.
Because he worked for the railroad company. He was gonna
yeah,
get
well, a lot of
pension.
them, when they did do they get a day off. You know, that was really important to some of these fellas.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
those union fellas. Yeah.
I don't want to say anything about black people because I love black people.
You know,
Yes.
I've always told guys in our trades, you know, they're like, "What happens if I get hurt?" And I was like, "We have Lake Michigan insurance."
You're
And they're like,
talking
"Oh,
Lake
okay."
Michigan?
And then I'm like, "Do you know what Lake Michigan insurance is?
You wind up in the lake.
You get hurt on the job site, we beat the shit out of you the rest of the way and dump you in Lake Michigan." And those guys are just like, "I'm gonna go get my gloves."
It's just. I did have Donnell. I have a story about Donnell. Donnell was working for me, and he was a most honest man you'd ever met. You know, and he was a Southern black man. That I had a. He couldn't barely spell. He would write paids instead of paid on the ticket. Put an S at the end of paids, you know. And he was semi-illiterate, but he was a hard working man, you know. And he would always, you know, come to work, always work hard. And if I had to trust somebody to hang on to $100,000 in a shoebox for me while I went away somewhere, he would have been the guy.
Are you sure? Because
Yeah,
it sounds to
absolutely.
me like he didn't have fingers. I would
Yeah,
give
see.
him a shoebox
Yeah,
that he can't.
he had
he can't hold
9
on
good
to.
fingers. Anyway, we were cleaning the windows at all the what's it, hair salon? I'm drawing a blank right now. The
The Mario Tricosi.
Mario
one.
Tricosis.
Yeah, that's a good story, actually.
and
I
Mario
didn't think of that.
Tricosi gave me all of his places, okay, and then you know, and he had a lot of them, and
One in Old Orchard Mall.
Right.
Mario Tricosi,
Yeah.
and yeah, actually that's the one, right?
That's a big
on
one.
Vernon
That's
Hills,
the
is
one.
that Old
Yeah,
Orchard?
yeah, that's the
Yeah.
main one where they did. That's a school and stuff, right?
Well, we were doing all of his places, and I sent Donnell to do one of the places, and Mario Tricosi sent for me, wanted to talk to me. And I came into his office and says, "How can I help you, Mario? What's up?" He says, "Well, I wanted to talk to you about this guy that you sent." I said, "Did you talk about Donnell?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "You can't send that guy in." I said, "Why?" He said, "Look at him. Look how black he is." I said, "Mario, you've got black women working for you that are cutting hair." He goes, "I know, but they're beautiful women."
Oh, jeez.
He goes, "That guy looks like, you know, an ignorant Negro." I said, "He's honest. He's hard working." He goes, "It's the image, you know. So please don't send him anymore to my places." And I quit. I wouldn't work for him anymore.
Good for you.
I decided I'm not going to clean your windows then. If I can't send this guy in, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Donnell was like, "Dennis, why did you do that? What's wrong with you? You know, I've dealt with that my whole life." He goes,
sure.
"It's money." He
Yeah.
goes, "You shouldn't have done that, you know. It doesn't mean nothing except you're going to make less money now." I said, "I don't care." You know what I
Because
mean?
it's going to happen no matter
You know,
what. He's going to
you know.
be treated like that the next
Right.
day, whatever. But
Shouldn't happen.
You did the right thing. It's funny. I was talking to my dad today while we were painting, and we had a conversation about. And we'll have to break here because he's running out of
We
camera
still have
time.
8 minutes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we'll
But
close it up here in a minute.
Okay.
we were talking about, you know, just blatant racism. You
Yeah.
know, that's been happening with, like, you know, this stuff that's been happening with the illegals out here, and then all this ICE stuff, and it's like the only solid reason for it is just that you're racist, is that you don't like these people, you know. And as a Mexican, he's been, you know,
Your dad
he
immigrated,
treated me that
or
way.
was your dad born here?
He immigrated. Yeah.
He came legally, though, right?
He, oh,
He had a. He had a.
He's
he
got
went
a
through
green
all-
card.
He's got a green
He's got a
card.
green card.
And did he get a citizenship too?
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
And then he had his
Married
kids
my
here.
mom.
You know, he didn't just bring you here and have you. You know what I mean? And you know, so he did everything according to the rule of law. You know, that's important. You
Yeah.
know, our country is what defines a nation is its body of law.
He fought for the military.
Right.
You
You know?
know, joined the service, and absolutely the body of law. That's everything you would stand on.
That's what defines a nation is its body of law. You know, that's what it is. You know, I'm not. You know, I don't see anything wrong with immigration, but you know, they have to be vetted. We have to know who they are. We have to know if they're criminals. We have to know if they're, you know, if they have something. They have to offer us something.
They got to be the
They're-
right color too, right?
No, they just have to be able to, you know, they have to have a skill set. They have to have something.
They have to be
you know,
ready to be Americans.
right, or ready to learn. You know,
Yes, I
know?
love that. I absolutely love that.
and you're not going to come here and raise another flag. You know, but other than ours.
So,
you know?
and you
Especially
bring up
that-
another thing.
that-
Yeah,
That
they
purple
say-
one, what is that one that they were raising a couple of years ago? That the LGB flag, you know what I mean? That, gee,
I-
put it up over the White House. A lot of veterans were pissed off about that. You know, what I
Yeah.
mean? We didn't
Yeah.
fight for this country to, you know, not because there's, you know, sure there were a lot of people in the military that were,
Yeah.
you know, gays. But, you know, they weren't, you know, we were fine with them.
Yeah.
You know,
It's the same
But-
thing as racism in the same way. I mean, so like I'm queer, you know. So like anybody that is like, well, you got a problem with sucking dick? You want to talk about it? You know. But I'm not trying to go raise flags. You know. That. I don't know. I'm queer and I am who I am and I don't need a flag. You know, some people do. Wave it wherever you want to. Right?
yeah, but it's not, can't replace our flag.
But don't expect it, you know, don't expect to impose your flag in other people's houses.
Exactly. You know, I mean, there were people that died for that flag. A lot of people died for that flag. You know, that's one of the most famous iconic images is of those guys raising that flag. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That.
There's a lot of gay and queer people that died for that flag.
Yes, absolutely. You know, but that flag, you know,
Yeah.
you know that's the military flag, that our actual flag of peace has only flown 3 years in the entire history of our nation. You know, the flag, the Coast Guard flag is the
Flag of it's all good, we're at peace.
Yeah, I mean, the Coast Guard flag is the flag of peace without the Coast Guard signature,
Okay.
symbol on it.
Uh-huh.
That's what our actual flag is. You know, you have that amendment to the Constitution where no troops will be quartered in your home. But if you're flying the American flag on your home, you're inviting them in. So the troops can come into your home, eat your food, and be quartered there if you're flying that flag. If you're flying the peace flag in your yard,
They would come into your home and
they
you'd
can't
get
come
fucked.
in. Huh?
All right, let's close this thing down.
Yeah, let's go back to
Enough
windows.
for today.
All right.
Cool.
Awesome,
All right.
awesome.
That's a wrap, guys.
Well,
All right.
I want to thank you. Thank you so much for doing
Thanks for
this.
having